Is your practice tired of wrestling with insurance denials, deciphering EOBs, and watching your revenue slip through the cracks? You are not alone. Welcome to The Claim Game, the podcast designed to cut through the confusion and provide you with the best practices for revenue cycle management success. We are Jeremy and Catherine Zug, and we've been with people just like you in the trenches. Each week, we'll break down complex billing processes, share real-world solutions from practices like yours, and ask questions of the game makers and changers of healthcare so you can take control of your revenue. Let's turn those claim denials into deposits and help you return to focusing on patient care. It's time to win the claim game.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Claim Game. I'm your host, Jeremy Zug. And as a reminder, this season of The Claim Game, we're going through the revenue cycle management best practices, one billing domain at a time. Last time we were here, we talked about claim follow-up and how to navigate a really messy aging report when you pull that out of your EHR. It's not obvious how to manage it, and that episode takes you through structures and tips and workflows for how you can navigate that complex billing domain. These are your key billing domains, what we're going through this season, and each one is critical for making sure your practice is sustainable over the long run. We're going to be zooming in on each of these domains and telling you each of the strategies that you need in order to win and keep your bottom line sticky. Quick reminder, if you missed the initial setup and want to understand the full scope of the board, if you will, and how the claim game works and how billing all works together, go back to episode 1 for the complete overview. So it's just me today with you. And I think for this particular topic for today, we're going to talk about appeals. I think it's better because we need to talk about how insurance companies handle and process appeals. And we're going to lay this out. No fluff, just the facts. And we need to look at the big picture. So we're going to start with the workflow. Where do appeals actually fit? So looking at the big picture, revenue cycle management is a linear, logical process with a very specific and often unforgiving order, which I think some of you have likely experienced, right? The foundation is we start with credentialing and patient registration, and then we get into the revenue cycle, right? And that's the repeatable loop that your practice follows when you do billing, right? Eligibility and benefits, payment posting, aging follow-up, claim submission, right? A lot of practices hit a wall when a claim is denied, and their immediate knee-jerk gut reaction is we need to appeal this immediately, go write a letter, get a supervisor on the line, right? You go right up the chain. And we want you to take a break, stop, take a breath. At Practice Solutions, we have a really, really strict philosophy that an appeal is like a fifth line of defense, right? It should never, ever be our first response to a denial, because sometimes a denial can mean a lot of things. It can mean that we have a workflow to fix. It could also mean that, let's say we have a lot of denials and rejections. Sometimes the fix to a high volume of denials and rejection is actually very, very small. So we can't just jump straight to appealing a denial. We need to take a step back and look at the facts, right? If you are immediately writing a passionate appeal letter every time you see a denial code on an ERA, your upstream systems are likely struggling or broken. And most denials can and should be resolved much earlier in the aging follow-up stage with a corrected claim, a phone call to clarify a modifier, something, right? So I want to talk to you first about the eligibility trap. So before we go further, here's my standard public service announcement for you. If your primary strategy relies on your electronic health records automated eligibility tool, you're setting yourself up for heartache downstream of claim submission. These tools are notoriously inaccurate, and they can provide a false sense of security. I was just talking to a provider today, actually, who is dealing with clawbacks because they were checking eligibility using one of those tools and didn't realize that there was a secondary claim involved in the mixture. And that's causing a little bit of a wrinkle in her year, and it's because of this particular issue. So I really want you to verify benefits manually at least the first time and through a high quality process like calling, verifying tax ID, NPI, place of service code, modifiers, licensure level, location, all those things, I think for the first eligibility check, probably should be done really thoroughly. And then after you establish a rhythm with a particular payer or health plan, you can increase the velocity by using a payer portal. But make sure that we're getting the right data up front. The color dye we pour at the front end with eligibility is the color we get at the end of the process with payment. And I want to make sure you're getting the highest quality revenue you can. This episode is brought to you by Jane, a practice management software and EMR built to support you in the day-to-day work of running your practice. If you're a health or wellness practitioner, you already know the care you provide starts well before your client arrives and extends far beyond the treatment room. Jane is there to support you in every part of that experience. With online booking, your clients can book at a time that works for them. And with features like notifications, they'll even be able to grab last-minute openings when they pop up. It's an easy way to keep your schedule full while getting your clients the care they need. During your appointment, Jane's AI-powered documentation feature can help you thoughtfully take notes so you can stay present with the person in front of you. And after appointments, you can end your time together on a healing note, not a transactional one, by charging the card on file. To learn more about how Jane can support you and your clients, head to jane.app/demo. And one last thing, if you're ready to get started with Jane, you can use my code in the show notes for a 1-month grace period on your new account. So let's say you've done everything right. You verified benefits, you submitted a clean claim, you followed up, and the payer still refuses to pay based on an incorrect policy interpretation. Now, this happens. This happens all the time. And you've exhausted all the easy options and you move to a formal appeal because it's warranted. To help you with this, we've created a resource in Hourglass called the DIY Appeals Packet. And for the rest of the episode, I'm going to walk you through the 5 phases of a professional systematic appeals process. The first is research and intelligence. And the biggest mistake you can make is assuming that payer A, that their appeals work exactly like payer B's appeals work. The rules vary widely by insurance company and even by state. So you cannot assume that the appeals process is uniform from one to another. This is another reason why we recommend when you select your payer mixture, you're really comfortable with the insurance companies that you're in network with, because otherwise you're going to be managing multiple appeals processes, and that can get really complicated really fast. So payers often hide their specific requirements, and our packet includes a general checklist with direct links to the appeal portals for major payers. But if you can't find the specific rules online, you have to pick up the phone. I think it's worth spending 45 minutes on hold to get a provider service rep on the line and ask them exactly how they want the specific denial appeal. Don't guess, right? If you don't know, ask. Phase 2 is proper formatting. Once you have the instructions for the workflow, where you're going to send the appeal, how they want it formatted, etc. Well, this is formatting, right? You need to format your submission. And generally this falls into one of 3 categories, right? There's either a payer specific form, right? They have their own form that you fill out. They have their own paperwork that you're going to fit into. There's a provider portal, like an online submission. So same thing, but just digital. Or you have a provider generated letter, right? If you're writing your own letter, do not write a long-winded story about why the denial is unfair. 1, it's probably not going to get read. And 2, the payers are just following a prescribed system or process that they've written. Okay, so while we care about getting the appeal approved, the denial overturned, we need to make sure that we are sort of like a lawyer following through on the process, because any time we miss something in the process, we jeopardize this claim. Our template uses a clean table at the top for the raw data: patient name, date of birth, ID number, claim number, charged amount. We're going to state the facts and then get to the point and move forward. Phase 3 is supporting documentation. A letter on its own rarely, and I mean rarely, wins an appeal. The letter is just the cover sheet. Your evidence is what gets the claim paid. So here's what we need to include in our appeal packet. You need to include the EOB or ERA, so proof of the initial denial. If you've got prior authorization, you need to include that, right? Proof of the authorization provides proof of medical necessity and permission to do the service. Correspondence logs, right? Reference numbers from phone calls, emails with representatives, any kind of objective evidence that you have to show and demonstrate that this claim needs to be overturned. And then any clinical notes or provider documentation that proves the service was necessary. Phase 4 is delivery and tracking. How are we sending this information to the payer? Right? Is it fax? Is it certified mail? Is it through a portal? We have to have confirmation of receipt regardless of how you send it. In the world of insurance, if you don't have proof that you sent it, it doesn't exist. And remember, hope is not a strategy, right? Sometimes we're a prisoner of hope, that we hope that what we send in one day gets processed by a good soul on the other end of the line or on the other side of the table. But we can often become a prisoner of hope in a way of speaking. And what that does is it leads to spiked aging, increased cash flow, results we don't want. And while hope is a good thing, we don't want to be a prisoner of hope. So don't just send an appeal and wait 60 days. I want you to track this appeal through the 5 milestones, which are received, under review, processed, decision made, final payout. And you want to make sure that through each of those milestones, which are received, under review, processed, decision made, and final payment, that you know where this appeal is and you're tracking it doggedly. And then phase 5 is building your practice playbook, right? If you take insurance in your private practice or your agency or organization, this is a factor that you're going to have to deal with. This is part and parcel of the decision to work with third-party payers. So to make this scalable, the DIY packet includes a blank insurance company appeals checklist. Every time you master the process for a specific payer, write it down, document it, save it as a checklist for your practice. So the next time the company denies a claim, you don't start from scratch, right? You pull up your playbook, you look at the rules you've already verified, and you execute the process over and over again. Appeals are really frustrating and time-consuming, but they're a necessary part of managing a healthy practice. So just remember the golden rule, right? Exhaust all your other options in the aging follow-up cycle first. When you have to do a formal appeal, do it professionally. Go to the Hourglass, download the appeals packet, and use these templates to get your claims paid. We don't want your denied claims to hold your revenue hostage, and we want you to take control, systematize your process, and stop spinning your wheels on appeals. I'm Jeremy Zug, your host, and we'll see you the next time on The Claim Game. If you enjoyed today's episode of The Claim Game, please take a moment to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps new listeners to find us. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to The Claim Game on your favorite podcast app. Your feedback means so much to us. We want to provide valuable education about revenue cycle management. So if there's something we didn't cover in our topic that was a burning question for you, please let us know so we can try to get you the information you desire. You can find the links to all resources we mentioned in this episode in the show notes. And if you want to dive deeper into our resources, we have 2 places you can do that. First, you can go to our blog at practicesol.com/blog, where we have 8 years of educational blogs. If you want to learn more about what Practice Solutions does, reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Just go to practicesol.com to learn more and to connect with one of our awesome people on our team. Thanks for listening. We are Jeremy and Catherine Zug, and this is The Claim Game. See you at the game table next time.